When upgrading a beloved film from 2K 1080p master to 4K UHD 2160p and slap on HDR, what could possibly go wrong? So first, before we get into the review, I just wanted to talk about Inglourious Basterds, the movie. Inglourious Basterds is my favorite Tarantino film. I mean, for starters, this film is also almost 3 hours long. I believe it's 2 hours and close to 2 hours and 40 minutes. And yet you are completely hooked from scene one until the end titles roll. What's interesting too is that Inglourious Basterds is 70% foreign dialogue and only 30% English. And personally, I always find that funny how people I run into who absolutely hate foreign films cannot tolerate subtitles. They say, I don't want to read a movie, I want to watch a movie. Well, they watch Inglourious Basterds with no problem, making a movie that is 70% non-English with subtitles, and no one notices. And it just shows what a brilliant craftsman Tarantino is as a filmmaker. And really, when you watch it, it plays as a Tarantino greatest hits. He takes everything, cherry picks everything that he loves about film, and blends it all in here from multiple title chapters with sequences of engaging and intense dialogue, exciting action, a charming but sinister antagonist, some really great humor in it, intense drama, and all wrapped around the setting of World War II while combining pop culture references and music, and it all makes sense. It all ties together perfectly, which honestly, as a filmmaker myself, is not an easy thing to do. It's really hard. In fact, it took close to about 18 years until Quentin Tarantino felt he matured enough as a filmmaker to pull this off. And I remember when this film came out and critics called it the World War II movie to end all World War II movies. And that's mainly because Tarantino gave us all the ending we wish happened in real life. And as with other Tarantino films, Inglourious Basterds is definitely a movie that you can never duplicate. And I really think the final line in the film encompasses the whole movie.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Of course, I'm giving Inglourious Basterds a 5 out of 5. So now, what about this new transfer? There's been a lot of debate over the quality of the 4K transfer. It's actually pitted some viewers against reliable reviewers, such as my friend Bill Hunt from the Digibits. Viewers are just slashing reviewers because of what they think of this 4K release. And the questions that I get is, does it mainly rely on what type of TV you have, or is it a fine transfer and that these reviewers are just being too picky? Well, let's find out. So Inglourious Basterds was transferred from a 2K scan 1080p master to a 4K UHD 2160p and with added HDR. The results? Well, when I first started the film on 4K, I quickly noticed that something just didn't look right. I did compare it to my 1080p Blu-ray, side-by-side comparisons with the 4K, and the film, first of all, the film always had a softer look to it, but with the 4K, the high resolution, it's a lot more noticeable now, where the image looks very soft and flat. And I did pull some screen grabs that can show you side-by-side comparisons. I'm going to show the 1080p was soft as well, but it also had some moments of depth, which I didn't find on this 4K release. As an example, you just don't get the rigid paper look of that period as intended as you do on the Blu-ray, as you can see here in the screenshots. On the Blu-ray, you see the rigid old paper look of that period, and on the 4K you just don't. Those are the certain details that you're missing. Another problem is with the whites. As you can see here with this screenshot, the whites are blown out, as if someone just went in and just blasted the brightness way too high. Also, another problem is with the colors. While they are more vibrant and saturated than a 1080p, they also tend to look a little too hot, especially with the flesh tones. The flesh tones look much more hotter than the Blu-ray. And honestly, it looked as if someone just took the 1080p and just turned up the saturation and contrast levels through some kind of editing software. To me, that's the best way I can explain what it looks like. However, there are some noticeable benefits to this 4K as well. For example, this opening title card is now bold and yellow when it was orange and kind of muted on the Blu-ray. The introduction of the bastards during Brad Pitt's speech looks fuller and richer. You can really see the yellow and orange leaves on the ground. The Blu-ray just didn't have that. And the reds and yellows stand out much more defined, especially the Nazi flags and blood. It's a lot more vibrant and saturated. I also noticed with the added HDR, the shadows are much more dark. And certain scenes, the black levels have heavier grain issues and noise than the Blu-ray did. And you can decide for yourself. I mean, really, you can see these screenshots here, the differences. I know it's hard to tell if you're watching on a phone or even on a computer screen. It's hard. You don't really get the full HDR experience or the 2160p experience. So it's a little hard to tell, but you can still see the differences there. So leave your comments down below. Let me know which screenshot you think looks the best. Now, the question that I posed in the beginning that I've had some people ask me, does it matter on the TV size or settings on the TV? And that did make a difference, but very slightly. If you watch this on a 65-inch or lower, it looks like you're watching a souped up 1080p Blu-ray. However, if you're watching this on a 75-inch or larger, or even on a screen projector, that's when you really notice all the problems with this transfer. It's much more noticeable on a bigger screen format. Now, I did tweak the settings on both TVs, and it did look somewhat better on my 65-inch. But here's the thing. When you buy a movie to watch 4K or not, it shouldn't matter what size of TV you own, and you shouldn't have to go in and readjust the settings on the TV. And that's the problem here. You shouldn't have to do all that to enjoy this 4K release. And this is what happens when, one, you don't involve the director. Universal did not involve Tarantino with this transfer. And two, when you don't restore the film with a 4K scan from the original 35mm negative. Literally, this is just an upsample from the 1080p. Alright, so my final score for Inglourious Basterds 4K UHD release, I'm giving the video a 3 out of a 5 and the audio a 5 out of a 5. As always, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for, I have a handful of new reviews and unboxings that have coming up. So if you haven't subscribed, consider being a subscriber and hit that bell so you can be notified when new videos drop. And as always, keep doing your part in keeping physical media alive. And we'll see you next time.